It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Monday, September 15th, 2014. Washington state marijuana tax revenues doubled in the month of August. Legal pot shops have now sold $12.1 million worth of marijuana since July 8th, when the first of about a dozen recreational stores opened their doors. In that first, albeit shortened month of July, Washington State's Liquor Control Board registered $805,000 in tax revenues, while revenues in August were $1.75 million, as now more than 50 stores have opened. Supply is also increasing, as more than 200 licensed growers have finally filled the state's 2 million square foot growing cap. Sales of marijuana topped $6.9 million in August and are on pace to top $7.1 million in September, leading to another $1.8 million in taxes. Marijuana legalization opponent Kevin Sabet often points out that historically, alcohol and tobacco cost $10 for every dollar of tax revenue, but he is silent on the costs of currently legalized marijuana. Reacting to the recent passage of a historic medical marijuana bill in Albany, New York Senator Liz Krueger will introduce a bill to legalize recreational marijuana in New York. The Manhattan Democrat explained that her bill would be modeled after the legalization in Washington and Colorado. Political realignment may mean a Democrat-controlled Assembly and Senate next year, giving Senator Krueger hope that legalization can move forward. She said, quote, "I knew we needed to move medical marijuana into law before people would focus on the bigger question, tax and regulation. So I think my legislative proposal fits in very nicely with what the state has already committed to move forward with. I see more hope in a Democratic majority for pieces of legislation that weren't going anywhere." End quote. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was very reluctant to sign medical marijuana legislation until advocates gave up a patient's right to acquire raw cannabis, so he may remain as a roadblock to legalization. The police chief in Madison, Wisconsin says the prohibition of marijuana is a, quote, abject failure, end quote, and called for its legalization, taxation, and regulation similar to Colorado and Washington. Police Chief Mike Koval told the Wisconsin State Journal, quote, "We've done such an abysmal job using marijuana as a centerpiece of drug enforcement that it's time to reorder and triage the necessities of what's more important now," end quote. Chief Koval proposed that the state should focus more on the, quote, infinite amount of challenges, end quote, posed by drugs such as heroin. He also added that the revenues from the regulation and taxation of marijuana could then be used to fund drug treatment and drug courts for people with true drug addiction problems, thereby lessening those hard drugs' impact on the criminal justice system. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Education has filed a lawsuit on behalf of the members of Iowa State University's Normal Chapter. Those students allege the university violated their constitutional rights to free speech by censoring their chapter's t-shirts. A first t-shirt used the Cy the Cardinal school mascot logo, prompting university officials to ban the shirts after legislators complained it appeared as though ISU endorsed marijuana legalization. Citing trademark infringement, the university denies that the students have any right to use the logo. After logo use was banned in 2012, the group's 2013 shirts only featured the normal logo, a cannabis leaf, and the initials ISU, which the university still considers a trademark infringement worthy of censorship. The smell of marijuana on a 6-year-old is not evidence enough to justify a search warrant for marijuana, according to the defense attorneys for a Michigan man caught growing over 200 plants. When Randall Fayek's daughter attended kindergarten, a teacher noticed her clothes smelled of marijuana. When asked about it, the little girl allegedly said her father, a card-holding medical marijuana patient, quote, was growing marijuana in the basement of their residence and that she was not supposed to tell anyone, end quote. Police got a warrant, but Fayek's attorney argues that the smell of pot alone isn't probable cause to suspect a cardholder was breaking the law. Quote, the mere allegations that the kindergarten-age child smelled like marijuana and that Mr. Fayek's home smelled like marijuana is insufficient for the magistrate to issue a search warrant, end quote, the defense wrote. They continued, quote, the officers had no reason to suspect that the quantity of marijuana was more than allowed, end quote, under Michigan's medical marijuana law. This has been your 420 Radio News for Monday, September 15th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville.